I wasn't supposed to find out like that, soaked, shivering, and clutching my broken umbrella. The rain came down out of nowhere, heavy and unforgiving, so I ran into the first cafe I saw. My hair was dripping, mascara probably smudged under my eyes, heels clicking loudly on the wooden floor as I stepped inside, embarrassed and breathless. And then I saw him, my husband, sitting in the far corner, cradling another woman like she was made of glass. His hand was wrapped around hers, thumb gently stroking her skin. Her head rested against his chest. He was leaning down, whispering something into her hair, the kind of soft whisper I hadn't heard in years. For a second, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. Maybe the rain had blurred my vision. Maybe it wasn't him, but it was. The watch I bought him for our 10th anniversary glinted under the cafe lights. His wedding ring caught my eye as he brushed a strand of her hair away from her face. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even walk over. I stood there, frozen, the sound of rain pounding against the windows louder than the chatter in the cafe. My heart didn't break loudly. It cracked quietly, and then something inside me went very, very calm. I turned around and walked out. He never saw me. That night, he came home late, said there was extra work. He kissed my forehead like always, asked about dinner, complained about traffic. I watched him carefully, the way he avoided my eyes for just a second too long. I smiled. That's when my revenge began. Not with shouting, not with drama. With silence. Over the next few weeks, I paid attention. I noticed the new password on his phone. The sudden gym sessions. The careful way he turned his screen away from me. I didn't confront him. I documented. Screenshots. Bank statements. Hotel bookings disguised as client meetings. I hired a quiet investigator, a woman who didn't ask questions, just delivered proof. Her name was Layla. 3 weeks later, she handed me a file thin enough to end a marriage. Photos of them entering that same cafe. Photos of them checking into a hotel. Messages printed out, words he used to send me when we were young and in love. I can't stop thinking about you. I feel alive with you. Alive, so that's what I had become, the place where he slowly died. I didn't cry over the file. I organized it. Then I met a lawyer. I didn't want half. I wanted peace. Security. Control. I moved quietly. Shifted our joint savings into a separate account legally allowed under my name. Cancelled the credit card I knew he used for his meetings. Updated beneficiaries on everything he'd forgotten I could access. Then I waited. 2 months later, he planned a small anniversary dinner at home. Candles. Flowers. A forced smile. I know I've been distant, he said, reaching for my hand. Work's just been crazy. I looked at him across the table. The same face I once trusted with my whole life. And I smiled back. I know, I said softly. After dessert, I handed him an envelope. He laughed lightly. What's this? Yes, I said. He opened it. At first, confusion. Then color drained from his face as he pulled out the photos, the printil messages. His hands started shaking. You're spying on me, he whispered. No. I replied calmly. I was paying attention. He tried to speak. Nothing came out. I saw you, I said quietly, in the cafe. The day it rained. That hit him harder than the evidence. His mouth opened slightly. You were there. Yes. Silence filled the room. I was going to end it, he stammered. It didn't mean anything. I tilted my head. You don't cradle something that means nothing. Tears formed in his eyes. Not from heartbreak, from fear. I slid another paper across the table. Divorce papers. I've already filed, I said. The house will be sold. My lawyer has everything. I don't want alimony. I don't want a scene. I just want out. He looked broken. Funny how quickly the powerful become small when the truth stands in front of them. You're not even angry, he asked, almost pleading. Oh, I said. And anger is loud. And I needed to think clearly. He reached for me then, desperate. Please. We can fix this. I stood up. You already fixed it, I replied. The day you chose her. I walked to the bedroom, packed a suitcase I had already half prepared weeks ago, and paused at the door. He was still sitting at the table, staring at the evidence of his own betrayal. You taught me something, I said softly. Never ignore what you see just because you're afraid of losing someone. I left that night. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. He lost more than a wife. He lost the comfort of certainty. The home that waited for him. The woman who stood beside him when he had nothing. And the other woman. She left too. Turns out, men who cheat don't suddenly become trustworthy. Last week, I walked past that same cafe. It started to rain again, soft, steady drops. I didn't run this time. I kept walking, head high, umbrella steady above me. Because the day I walked in there soaked and shattered, I walked out with clarity. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't making them suffer. It's showing them exactly what they lost, calmly, quietly. I should have turned around the second I saw his hand wrapped around hers. But instead, I stood there long enough to watch him look happier than he ever looked with me. The rain had driven me into that cafe. But what I saw inside washed something else away. Every excuse I had ever made for him. She wasn't just another woman. She was comfortable, familiar. Her shoes were off under the table. His jacket was draped over her shoulders. His fingers moved through her hair the way they used to move through mine when I had nightmares. And the way he looked at her, that soft smile. That smile used to be mine. I didn't confront him. Not because I was weak, but because I suddenly understood something powerful. If I reacted in that moment, I would only give him time to prepare. So I let him believe I knew nothing. That night, when he came home smelling faintly of a perfume that wasn't mine, I kissed him back. I even asked about his long meeting. He lied smoothly, and I nodded smoothly. That's when the real shift happened. I stopped loving him out loud. I became observant, precise, patient. He thought I was distracted because I started focusing on myself. New gym routine, new skincare, new hobbies. He mistook my silence for peace. But I was building something. First, I secured my job promotion. I had been putting it off for years because his career needed priority. Not anymore. I stayed late, took extra projects, networked quietly. Second, I started separating our lives in invisible ways. I removed my name from his business loan guarantee, something he forgot I had signed years ago. I consulted a financial advisor and made sure every asset was clearly documented. Then came the most important step. I befriended her. Not in a dramatic way, not suspicious, through social media. A follow, a like, a casual message about a book she posted. She didn't know who I was at first. Why would she? He had probably painted me as the distant, cold wife. We chatted occasionally. Harmless conversations. Until one evening, she mentioned how complicated her relationship was because the man she loved was stuck in a marriage. I typed slowly. Does his wife know? She replied, he says she wouldn't survive it. She depends on him. I stared at that message for a long time. Depends on him. That's when I knew exactly how I would end this. 2 weeks later, I invited him to a company gala. Formal event. Important clients. His presence required. He wore his best suit. The same confident smile. What he didn't know was that my promotion was being announced publicly that night. Vice President. A position that doubled my salary. The CEO praised my independence, leadership, and resilience. I watched his face in the crowd. Surprise, confusion, a flicker of insecurity. After the applause died down, I took the microphone again. I also want to thank my husband, I said calmly, for teaching me self-reliance. Polite laughter from the audience. He smiled awkwardly. Later that night back home, he finally asked, why didn't you tell me about the promotion? I looked at him evenly. You were busy. He didn't like that answer. A few days later, I invited her for coffee. Yes, the woman from the cafe. She walked in confidently, until she saw the wedding ring on my finger. Her face went pale. I think we should talk, I said gently. I didn't insult her. I didn't shout. I simply showed her everything. Proof that he had told me he loved me the same week he told her. Proof of overlapping hotel dates. Messages where he mocked how emotionally attached she was becoming. I watched the illusion shatter in her eyes. You deserve the truth, I told her. Not because I cared about her feelings, but because truth is the sharpest weapon. She left in tears. That evening he came home furious. What did you do? He demanded. I sat calmly on the couch. I corrected a misunderstanding. He ran his hands through his hair, panicked. She's not answering my calls. I held his gaze. Now you know how that feels. For the first time, he looked afraid of me, not because I screamed, but because I didn't. A week later I handed him divorce papers. This time there was no dramatic dinner, no candles. Just documents and clarity. You're ruining everything, he said, voice breaking. No, I replied softly. You did that in a cafe. He begged. Promised therapy change. Transparency. But I had already detached. Love doesn't survive humiliation. It survives honesty. And he chose neither. The divorce was swift. My promotion secured my independence. The house was sold, and I moved into a high-rise apartment overlooking the city. Months later, I heard through mutual friends that he tried to win her back. She refused. Apparently, she didn't depend on him either. Last weekend, it rained again. I walked past that same cafe, this time dressed sharply after a board meeting. Through the window, I saw him sitting alone. No jacket around anyone's shoulders, no soft smile, just a man staring at his phone. Waiting. For someone who wasn't coming. He glanced up for a split second and saw me. I didn't stop. I didn't wave. I didn't need to. Because the most satisfying revenge isn't destroying someone. It's becoming so strong, so untouchable, that they realize they destroyed themselves, and you simply stepped. I almost laughed when he told me she was just a face, because phases don't leave lipstick on collars and hotel receipts in coat pockets. The rain had been cold that day in the cafe, but what I felt watching him cradle her was colder. Not rage, not heartbreak. Clarity. I replayed that image for weeks, the way his thumb traced slow circles on her wrist, the way she leaned into him like she belonged there. Like I didn't. At home, he still asked me about my day. Still expected dinner. Still slept beside me, back turned, scrolling through his phone long after midnight. And I began to understand something dangerous. He wasn't afraid of losing me. He was confident I'd stay. That confidence became my advantage. I stopped arguing about small things. Stopped asking where he'd been. Stopped checking the time when he came home late. Instead, I redirected my energy. I reopened my old savings account, the one I had before marriage. I updated my resume. I reconnected with people I had slowly distanced myself from because marriage takes work. Yes, it does. But not one-sided. Then I did something he would never expect. I changed the dynamic completely. I became distant, but not bitter. Calm, but unreadable. I started going out more. Work dinners. Fitness classes. Weekends visiting friends. My phone began lighting up more than his. He noticed. Of course he did. One night, as I was getting ready for an event, he stood in the doorway watching me apply lipstick. "You've been different lately," he said carefully. I smiled at my reflection. Have I? You don't ask about my day anymore. I capped the lipstick and turned to him. "I trust you," I said evenly. That sentence unsettled him more than suspicion ever could, because suddenly, he wasn't sure what I knew. A few days later, I arranged something small but strategic.